Welcome to a new video in my SAP GUI scripting series. I have quite a few videos in this subject and I'm also receiving a lot of questions, so I thought I should make a basics and a tips video to reflect on the more common questions. And of course, thank you very much for those who just leave a comment saying that my videos are helpful and made their life easier. You guys are welcome. Maybe the first thing that I would like to start with is just to go through the basic settings that enable GUI scripting. And by the way, when you open your SAP GUI and then if you come here, you see this icon, this faint icon, and if you go over it, it says SAP GUI scripting script is not running. If you see this icon, it means that the scripting is actually enabled. And also if you select options and you go to scripting, you have enable scripting, and so that also enables scripting besides whether scripting is enabled in the client by basis. But just come here. I mean, I think this is enabled by default. What you can also do is you can take you can remove the tick box, which is usually the first one is ticked, and that would create a pop-up every time you try to run a script, which yeah, could be useful, but for me it's just annoying, so I've just removed it. So when I start a script in Excel, it starts in SAP in the GUI immediately, and not you don't need to go through and well, click an OK button on a dialog. So that's the GUI options. That's all that needs to be done. And other than that, you can go to RZ11, which is the maintain profile parameters, and this is what I use. I just search for star scripting star, and there will be a few. So the first of all is the user scripting. So that might be disabled in your client for certain cases. So as you can see, the current value is true. If it says false, then you are not allowed to do scripting. You can change the value here. Of course, if you have authorization. So just type true here. If you have multiple servers, then you can take this one to switch on all servers, and you save, you log in, you log off and log back in, and then hopefully scripting is enabled. So the other thing which also happens sometimes is that the scripting itself is enabled, but the script recording is disabled. So that could be another one to look for. And actually, well, it is false, so the script recording is not disabled. But again, you can change it the same way. And if you again come to options, script recording and playback. So if this whole menu is disabled, then either go to options or RZ11 and the previous parameter, because that could be false. And if you come here and the record button is disabled, then it's this parameter which is set to true. So that needs to be set to false. So that is all the settings on the SAP side that needs to happen, and obviously you need to have access to the transaction RZ11 to change that if that is not enabled by default. As I said, sometimes the recording is disabled, and the way I usually come around this is that you create a recording in your development system, which is where usually the recording is enabled, and then you just run it in, let's say, on test and pre-production and production, where usually the recording is disabled, but mostly the scripting itself is enabled. And of course, your system should be, all aligned, so whatever recording you make in development should be able to should be used in all other systems within the in your landscape. Some of the other questions I got: if the GUI scripting works in Citrix, and the answer is yes and no. And it is yes because, for example, I'm using I don't know whether it's Citrix or, yeah, actually it is Citrix. So I have a dedicated machine. So I have a machine, as you can see here, which has I'm getting an entire desktop. So I'm getting the SAP GUI, and I'm getting also Excel within the same, let's say, Citrix screen. I don't know what's the best way to put that. So that obviously the Excel and the GUI script can talk to each other, and then scripting works, as you will see in this video. But if you have that type of Citrix where you log into a web page and then you can launch separate windows, then that would not be able to talk to each other. So you need to have like a dedicated VD, like a dedicated virtual desktop to run scripting in on a remote machine. The other thing people are struggling with is I made a few videos on how to upload and download attachments and files in various transactions, and what I wanted to say is, or what I failed to mention in this video, is that whenever I do that, so let's say I'm in SE16, I want to export this, so I go to what is download, and I usually select unconverted, and then if you click on this one, you get the file open, or well, in this case it's the file save as video. So when you're trying to save something, it's a save as, and when you're trying to upload something, it's the open video, open dialog. And this screen is not SAP GUI, because that's the standard that's the standard Windows file open or file save as dialog, which means that you will the GUI scripting will not be able to script that, because, well, that's not part of GUI scripting. And there is no way to go around this. At least there is nothing that I know of. Excel has access to all the the Windows infrastructure as well, so there could be like a Windows API or something where you can get the handle of this dialog and then do something with it. But that's not something that I managed to do, or well, I haven't even tried, to be honest. So if you have like a Microsoft Guru friend or Windows Guru friend, he might be able to do that. But otherwise, there is no way around it. So if you are trying to script a transaction which only have this save as dialogues or the open dialogues, it's not going to work. So basically, there is going to be nothing in your recording about this screen. And this is why I like these type of GUI screens, where you can actually type let's say the directory and the file name in, because you are typing into a GUI field that will get recorded. Whatever you pick here using the dialogues will not get recorded, but even if I record this screen with the dialog, I would eventually able to script the values, because, well, they get set in this field. But there are other screens, I don't really have an example of that, where the open dialog just pops up and then it disappears and it loads the file or something like that. So that will not be able to, that cannot be scripted, and just there is no way around it. Next question I got asked often is about the status bar. So let's say you have a transaction where or any process where there is some information appearing on the status bar. For example, if I tried in SE16, I try to search for something which doesn't exist, I get this message, no table entries found for the specific key. So if you want to capture that, how do you get this information out of the status bar? And actually, this is something that I used in my video on creating orders. If you remember, here you specify your, let's say, sold to, ship to, and your products. You click on the create order button, and at the end it will create the order in VA01. And then when you save the order in VA01, you also get a message here which says order, standard order 1 2 3 4 5 got created, or something like that, or got saved. And I'm using that information to get the order number which got created. And the way to do it is actually fairly simple, because let me find the code. So it's this one. So if you do this object session or whatever your session variable is, find by ID and WND square bracket 0 / s bar dot text. So that's going to give you the value in the status bar. Where is my status bar? It's here. So and I just usually use the mid object in the mid function in Excel, which can cut a part of the text out. So here I cut out the 10 letters starting from position 16, and so within that piece of text that I'm using, it always says like standard order 1 2 3 4 5 got saved. So I always know that my order number is going to be starting from position 16, and document numbers are 10 digits, so it's the 10 characters. And then if you say cell 5.5, 5.5 dot value equals to this mid, the status bar value 1610, that in this particular case with this transaction type, I would always get the order number. And then again, cells 5, 5 is column 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 E, and then row 5, so it's going to put it into E5. So that's the very simple way of doing the getting the status bar value. Since we are in the Visual Basic Editor, again, I've mentioned it in every single videos, but just to make sure that sometimes when you download the one of my examples, I don't know why this happens. Maybe if you have your SAP GUI installed in a different path from mine, then the SAP GUI scripting API is not being ticked in the references. So again, you go to Tools, Preferences, and you need to have this one ticked. Otherwise, your script is not going to work. You will get all sorts of messages saying that the object is not defined or something similar. And if you can't find this in the list, then you just hit the browse button, and it's the SAP fewse.ocx, which should be in your SAP GUI installation folder, which is like something like program files, SAP front-end SAP GUI. So again, this is always this should be always the first thing that you start if you find some errors. Talking about the GUI itself and then references, what I've also noticed, it happened me a few times, and I almost couldn't figure out why this is happening. But let's say you want to create a script and you get a message saying that you are not logged into the system that you are trying to connect to. And then sometimes I look at my SAP GUI and I can see that I'm definitely logged into that system. So one reason for that could be is I've noticed that if you can start multiple SAP logon instances. So as you can see here, I have one SAP logon where I'm logged into D01220, and I have another SAP logon as well, which I'm not logged into anyone. But maybe if I just use it to, log into, I don't know, pre-production, and then when you run the scripting, it will, look through all the sessions that you are connected to, and then it will try to, grab the session which matches the seed and the client that you specified in the Excel. And what seems to be happening is it can only search within one of the SAP logon instances. Just make sure that you only have one instance of the SAP logon running, and your session that you are trying to use is basically started from that SAP logon instance. I also got a few questions related to the grid view and just list in general. And I'm mostly like a CRM guy, so I'm going to use CRM as an example for this one. There could be like a better example. There could be a better example in ECC, but I don't know any. So what I'm doing now is I'm in transaction SMW01, which shows all the BDoc messages, and I just want to pick an example where I generate like a lot of entries, or I see a lot of entries in the screen. So that should do it. Hopefully I have loads of them. Okay, 1,400. Okay, it's not too much, but you might have noticed in a few cases that you have lists like this one, or order items, where you may end up having loads of items. So here it's 1,400, and if you grab this grid view and you just try to cycle through the items, you will notice that you can only get the first 100 item, and that's because when this screen loads, SAP doesn't load all the data. So you notice that once you start scrolling down, the system really slows down, because it is reading the information as you scroll down. So if you want to get a huge list like this one out of the system, you have to also simulate this scrolling on the screen. And you can certainly script that and then see how it works. And I've done it exactly in this scenario. So I've created a script which extracts all these BDoc messages, and if I have loads of them, then I need to use the scroll mechanism just to make sure that all the information is read. And the data looks, or the script looks something like this. And So first, I start to extract the data. So again, I find the view, the grid, and I can get the number of rows, so I know how many rows are there in the screen. So that would be like 1400, and then I will start scrolling. And the other information you can get also is these views would have a property which says vertical scroll bar. And that vertical scroll bar also has a maximum. So if you know that the vertical and this maximum is actually it's not pages, but it's the lines that you have on the code. So if you know that your vertical scroll bar maximum is greater than the number of items you have, then you know that you have much more items than what fits on the screen. So you need to start scrolling. And so what you can do here is that you can create a loop on your vertical scroll bar dot maximum, and then within the loop you just issue one command, which is the session find by ID, the ID of your grid view, and then dot vertical scroll bar dot position equals I. So that would make your scroll bar to scroll to the item that you want to extract. It's either that item or the item below. It doesn't really matter, but it basically tells the GUI to scroll to the part that you are trying to extract. And when this command is issued, then it's the same as you are scrolling down in the list, which then makes the GUI to actually read that information which is being displayed. So once you start extracting the data, like get cell and whatever, you can make sure that information is read and it's available in the GUI, so you are not going to extract blanks. And then that's it. So again, instead of creating a loop on the row count, you can also create a loop on the vertical scroll bar maximum, and then use the position property just to move the scroll bar along with the lines that you are processing in the list. The other question I ask often is if I can extract a specific field on a specific transaction. And again, the answer is usually yes. So anything which is in SAP GUI, you can record script, get the value out of, you can make changes to it or influence the behavior. And again, the only exception is the only exception I know of at the moment is like all the standard Windows dialogs, like the file open, the save, and the print dialogs. And then one particular question was about these traffic lights. In some transactions it has this red, amber, and green traffic light. So one particular one I know of is transaction FB50. And so the question was if you can get the value of that. So I'm just going to take that as an example how to, again, find a figure that you don't know, and then create a code how to get the value of that field. And actually, I'm just going to record this straight away. So I was trying different things. So I started recording, and I go to one transaction which has that is the FB50 to create manual documents, and that's the traffic light icon which I was thinking about. And all I wanted to do is just to go to the transaction and click on that field, because you probably have noticed that every time you click on something, that field receives focus, and that action is being recorded in the script. So I can stop the scripting now and look at the folders. Yeah, sorry, I need to close this. Yeah, so the script has been created. So if I open this up, sorry. I should not have double clicked, but instead open with Notepad. So yeah, as you can see, we opened the transaction, we pressed enter, and that's the focus, so set focus, and that's the name of that field which has the traffic icon. So I'm going to copy these 3 lines, and I'm just going to, any of the script that I'm going to use for this particular scenario. So I go into the code and find a piece where the scripting is being executed. So it looks like this one. I'm then just going to paste it here. and I'm going to put a breakpoint in here. So let's go back to the Excel. I'm going to change some, I'm in D100, what is it? What's the client? D100 220? Sorry, D01 220. Fine, and then let's start. Okay, script is running, it's running the transaction, now we have the breakpoint. Fine. So what I wanted to do is, so I just copy this code in and to execute so I can get into the screen where I have the field that I was looking for. And I mean, I know that this is the field, so that's not really a question here, but now from this GUI recording, I know that to set the focus on this field, you issue the command set focus. But how about getting the value? You can't really, copy that value out. So that's where debugging comes in. So I put the breakpoint in, I'm running it. So now I'm in debugging, and I can look at this object. So if I just select the session, find by ID, the whole thing without the .set focus, and I put it into my watch. Okay, I make it slightly bigger. Then I can expand and I can see everything I need to know about this object, and I can just start scrolling through the thing and then see all the different information that I can get out. And for example, you can see that it has a text property, but it doesn't have anything in it. We have to look for more of the properties. So for example, we have the tooltip here, so balance not determined, so that's where you see popping up when you leave the cursor over the field for a longer period of time, but that's probably not useful as well. But what you can see, it has an icon name, so that has the S_TL_Y, which, what's the icon here? Oh yeah, it's amber, so maybe that's the Y is for yellow. So what you can do is you can create a few recordings where you simulate this being, well, this is yellow now, and then green and red, and just see what the icon name changes to. So you can use the icon name to determine whether it's, it's an okay FI posting, or it's an incorrect one, or there are some errors. So that's how you can interrogate the field or any GUI object, and then see what is the information there that you can use, and then you can extract that. And since we are here, I just also wanted to show another one. So all these GUI screens are built as a hierarchy. So every screen probably has like a background, and on that background you have a toolbar, and you have these tabs, and the tabs would have fields. So they are all related in like a parent-child relationship, and you can also use that information to look through the whole structure in debugging. So if I look this particular one, it says, that's my particular field with the traffic light. So it has a parent. So if I open up the parent, then I can see that it's, well, I don't really know what this is. It's a GUI user area, yeah, whatever. But then it has children. So you can see that it has like 10 children. And if I look at this screen, well, that's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's more stuff in here. But you can start again drilling down, and then you can see all the things. So that tab strip head, okay. And what's the next control? It's a frame and total DR, so the display text. So that's the object for this particular field here. What's the next one? That should be the total of deposits to be displayed 0.0, let's say. If I get a tooltip, no, I don't get a tooltip. And so that's the accounting GL head summary SOL. I'm not sure what that stands for. But as you can see, you can scroll, you can debug through the entire screen. So even if you get to one screen, even if you can't click on that particular button, then just click on anything, go into the, put a breakpoint here, start debugging it, put this, well, any of the object into the debug window, and then start going through the parent and the children property of that object, and basically you can explore the entire screen. And in most cases, you can see that the ID usually gives some hint, like it's text, so it's going to be a text field, and also the name of the field usually relates to the SAP table thing behind it. So if you know about your object and you know how the different fields are called in like the field name, or I don't know, domain name or whatever, then just by looking at this, I mean, I don't know too much about the FI documents. I don't know whether it's like a currency or a value thing, but in most cases you can quickly determine the thing that you are seeing. So again, it's another summary. That's the other total CR field, so that's going to be that. And then probably you have another field for the value. So that would be this value 0.0, and then probably this field is going to be the currency. So that's going to be the currency. Yeah, you see the euro. Sorry, changing too quickly. And then finally, that's our traffic light screen. You see, we have seen this before. And then the last one is, okay, scroll container. So that's probably nothing. That's not something that you can really use it for anything. But again, I just wanted to give you an idea how useful it is to to start debugging, and then going through the different objects, seeing the properties and seeing how those properties behave, what are the different values in those properties, and what is the information that you can get out using scripting. And of course, if you're not sure about how to use this information, so again, we have going through this entire structure, we have actually gone back to this initial field that we were looking for. So it's the what is it, the traffic light one. So whatever property you see here, you can basically put in here. So icon name, and if I do just message box, which creates a message box with the whatever value that you are passing through as the value within the message in the message box. So if I let it step through that line of code, then you will get a message with the value of that property. So the s_tl_y, so exactly the value that we have seen here in the debugging. So that's how you build the code based on what you see here in the watch list. I hope you find this video useful. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.